A consistent message that we've had here on the show on Aspire to Retire has been don't time the market. The perils of doing it, how it's next to impossible to do. Timing what the Fed is going to do, that is a different story. We're going to explore that here on this episode of Aspire to Retire with Ralph Short, Tim Short, and Scott Earhart of Welcome Home Financial Partners. We appreciate you joining us this week. WelcomeHomeFP.com is the website if you want to reach out to the team, find out more about the First Friday events, start beginning your retirement roadmap process. Again, WelcomeHomeFP.com. Links right there in the podcast description. My name is Chris Swan, and I am joined, as always, by Ralph Short, Tim Short, and Scott Earhart. Gentlemen, glad to be with you. How are you doing?
Good. How are you, Chris?
Doing well. So if you went back to last December, looking ahead, people were predicting 6 interest rate cuts in 2024, 9 interest rate cuts, a significant amount of them. Here we are, as of right now, 0 have happened so far. But if you ask Wall Street right now, it is betting that the Fed is going to lower interest rates in September by a half point. There are others that still say it's going to be a quarter point cut. In any case, a lot of people think that it is pretty much baked in. So what does that mean for high rates on fixed income products like CDs and treasuries? Here's BlackRock Steve Lapley recently on Yahoo Finance.
It's time to take a hard look at the cash you're sitting on. If you're underweight fixed income, and our data has shown consistently that people are, we think there's still an opportunity to lock in these yields, especially ahead of an easing cycle, if that is to kick off in September.
So is it a smart move for cash, especially since this might honestly be the last time we see interest rates this high for a while?
Well, I think it kind of depends. So, what kind of cash are you talking about? If you've got, 3 months saved up and that's the cash that you're going to use to get into a CD or something fixed, I don't know if I would tell you to take all your emergency fund and stick it into somewhere where it might get you a little bit of a higher rate. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the biggest question. I wouldn't say anything's baked in. The government can do what they want. They can backtrack, they can change, they can do anything. So it's important to really take a look at your overall plan and not just, hey, if I've got cash sitting on the sideline. Now, if it's 500,000 sitting in the bank, that's a little bit of a different story. Sure. So it all depends on your plan, what you're trying to accomplish. Yes, the rates might be higher now than they'll be in the future, but you don't want to lock your money up into a CD, especially if it's everything that you have.
Completely agree. And I mean, Tim makes a great point that let's say that the Fed does cut in September, quarter, half point, and then we get some bad reporting come, November. Guess what? They can tick it right back up. It doesn't, that should not be the benchmark that you're using for your retirement portfolio. The key is to have a team around you, have some financial professionals that are working with you that understand you, your goals, what you want to achieve. And also, if you are looking into, fixed income assets of some type, working with a team that understands how to utilize those. I mean, there's always going to be some level of value in fixed income, whether it's today or whether it's 5 years down the road, whenever it is. There's going to be products or portfolios out there that can give you a decent return and give you safety that you want. So having a team that understands how to utilize those, how to incorporate them into your general retirement strategy is something that you've got to have.
One of the things, Chris, in your question, you said it was the last time that we'll ever see these interest rates. Well, let me just say this to you, because a lot of clients will come in and say, I remember when, CD rates, why don't we have CD rates at 15 to 16% like they were in the, the early 80s? Mm-hmm. Well, things change over time. And if you're in your retirement years, 30 or 40 years, guess what? You're going to see a lot of changes over the course. So you'd have to take a look at your current situation and take a portion of it maybe and do that. But you shouldn't think that this is the last time that those rates are going to be there if you're going to live another 30 years, because things change, history change, economy changes. Who knows what's going to happen? I mean, that's the thing that when we sit down and talk to people, keep your perspective, because what it is today is not going to be what it is tomorrow. And you have to be prepared for whatever comes down the line to you. The biggest issue for most people is they think where they are today is where they're going to be tomorrow. And you have to have more of a dynamic plan in place with somebody that understands what you're trying to do and their fiduciaries. And that's where we always come in and say, all right, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? What is best for you? And that's what a lot of people need to understand, no matter where you go, you got to make sure they understand your goals and your priorities.
I think it's a balancing act, because we've all, everybody around this table has met that client that says, how come rates aren't, that 12, 13% that I had back in 1985, and which that I would love to be able to offer clients 12, 13% on a guaranteed basis, but reminding that client that, it's not necessarily a good thing, because their mortgage rate was also 18% at that time. There's kind of a balance that it's our job to help clients walk and understand. And to Ralph's point, what is best for them to achieve their goals on a personalized basis, not on some, oh, this is what everybody else is doing, so this is what you should do. It's got to be personalized to you, your specific assets, and your goals, and how can we best help you achieve them.
And sometimes we do have to remind them the way things were. Just like Scott said, and when I remind people, yeah, my first mortgage in 1982 was 18%. Do I want to go back to 18% mortgage, or do you? And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember mine was around 15. Yeah, okay. That's what I keep telling them. You got to remember where you are in stage of life.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because we've all gotten kind of spoiled over the last few years regarding, about 4 years ago with the interest rates. If you got a mortgage for 2.25% and now it's 8%.
Yeah.
Yes, we wanted to go back to 2.25%, but everything's all relative. And when it comes down to the history of interest rates, they're not as high as people think they are, but because they rose so quickly in a short amount of time, that's where everybody's kind of in an uproar. So going back to locking your money into something fixed, it depends on how much you've got. If you are interested in putting some cash somewhere, maybe look to do it for longer than 6 months or a year. What if you can get something fixed for the next 3, maybe even 5 years at a really good rate now? So those are things to take into account as well.
Especially if you're not going to be touching it. You guys touched on something there that I want to ask you about. Do people typically, when they come to the office, do they view their retirement as this one just giant phase, this next 20, 30 years, it is going to just be this? Or do they have the mindset that, the first 5 years are going to kind of look like this, and the next 5 years where it is actually segmented? It's not just one big book, but there's chapters within there.
Well, what I would say to that is this: a lot of people need to understand, and we talk to them about, there's stages of your retirement years.
Mm-hmm.
The first 5 years, 6 years, depending on your health, you can do anything that you want because you got the most money. And then the next is you have the money, but you may not want to do that. And then the last phase of your life, guess what? You probably can't do it because of your health situation, because that does change. But the thing that I always tell people is, it's just not about your pot of money that you've saved up. It's about what you're trying to accomplish, and understand things are going to change over your life. So all that plans that we have, you've got to be ever changing, because based on your situation.
I think a lot of our job, when we're meeting with, pre-retirees or people that just entered into retirement, is to kind of educate people on how it's going to go. Like how Ralph just laid it out, the first few years, then the middle portion, then the end. I do think a lot of people come in to retire. They've never retired before. They don't know what they're doing.
Sure.
They've never been through this life experience before. So they come in thinking, okay, I'm retired and now it's going to look like this. Well, when you create a retirement plan for someone, you've got to factor in changing. Things are going to change. I mean, we previously talked about, recessions and, economic factors are going to change, but life factors are going to change too. You have a new grandbaby that lives on the other side of the country. You're going to want to spend more time there. You have, you decide that you're sick of airports. I mean, I know Ralph would never be sick of airports. It's his favorite place in the world to be. But so you don't want to travel as much. There are going to be things that change, and your retirement plan and your retirement professionals have to be nimble enough to make sure that your plan changes with your wants, desires, and abilities.
So the other thing I would say that you also need to make sure of, and I hate talking about this, and Scott and Tim will probably laugh when I say this, is if you made a plan because your income was tax bracket was at 12%, and all of a sudden the good old boys of the government, or good old people of the government, decide that, oh, we need more money. Guess what's going to happen? Instead of a 12% tax bracket with the same income, you might be at 20%. So how's that going to affect your spending habits at that point in time? So those are all changes that we have to sit down and talk to people about. Do we know exactly what your retirement is going to be like? No, because there's always going to be things like that that we have no control over. We don't have any control over our health up to a certain point. We don't have any control of what the government policy is going to be, either on taxation or Medicare expenses and things like that. So be prepared. Be a Boy Scout. Be prepared.
You didn't want to bring up the new policies that might be in force on unrealized gains taxation and capital gains taxation increasing. So yeah, to Ralph's point is, you have to, the ticking tax time bomb is what you need to avoid, because we don't know what the future is going to hold. But some of the things that we're seeing in the news currently are pretty scary.
Well, one of the things I would say is kind of like, the reason I didn't bring that up is because it's kind of like Beetlejuice. If you say it enough, it might happen.
Well, I'm not saying it anymore. That's it. We're good.
That's it. So
Moving on.
We'll put a bow on that. But, knowing that there may be changes down the line to get you off course, that's where that roadmap, the retirement roadmap you guys do, really, I think it's a great analogy. It's a great thing that you guys do, because the destination is going to always be the same. What you want to do is, retire, enjoy that retirement, and hopefully, unless it's something you want to do out of desire, not have to unretire. Now, occasionally there will be detours along the way, market volatility or the other things that we're not going to speak about again to bring them into fruition here, that can veer us off course. That is okay, but if you have that roadmap in place, you say, okay, here we are now. How do we get back to where we want to be? The different phases of retirement, the different spending patterns, just goes to show, you're going to have money that's going to work in different ways for you. Yes, you can have money that is going to be in the market that you're not going to touch for 15, 20 years, where you can think of it like a younger-minded investor, because you've got time on your side for that. In the same way, there is money that you're going to need for the next couple of years that you maybe want to have, as hands off the market as possible, because you don't want any volatility to tie in. Same sort of thing with these interest rates, CDs, accounts like that you do have to lock in for a fixed amount of time. Obviously, you don't want to put the entirety of your balance in there, because if you need that money in the next couple of years, the penalty for that is pretty steep. But being able to navigate and figure out what's going to work best for you requires a professional hand, and is what the team at Welcome Home Financial Partners do day in and day out, helping people not just get to retirement, but through retirement and stay retired if that's their prerogative. It all begins with that retirement roadmap, and that all begins by reaching out to the team. WelcomeHomeFP.com is the website. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, you just click the link right there in the podcast description. It'll take you right there. Set up a time to speak with them, find out more about the First Friday events. They'd love to have you out there as well. WelcomeHomeFP.com. I want to thank you for joining us on this episode of Aspire to Retire with Ralph Short, Tim Short, and Scott Earhart. Hope you have a great day ahead of you. Gentlemen, hope you have a great day as well. And as we wrap up, I'm going to leave you with the final word.
Thanks, Chris. You as well. So, yeah, if you're listening to this and you are wanting to capitalize maybe on some fixed income right now where rates are still, fairly up there. So if that's something of concern for you, if you are concerned about various things, taxation, we've already talked about, give us a call. We'd love the opportunity to talk to you in the office and see how we can help you out. Thanks for listening. Take care.
All content is for information purposes only. It is not intended to provide any tax or legal advice or provide the basis for any financial decision, nor is it intended to be a projection of current or future performance or indication or future results. Opinions expressed herein are solely those of Welcome Home Financial Partners and Welcome Home Wealth Advisors, LLC. The information contained in this material has been derived from sources believed to be reliable, but is not guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness, and does not purport to a complete analysis of the materials discussed. All information and ideas should be discussed in detail with your individual advisor prior to the implementation. Each individual investor's situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstance. Advisor services are offered by Welcome Home Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Virginia. Being registered as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. Insurance products and services are offered through WPI Holding, Virginia Insurance License Number 138509, an affiliated company. The information contained herein should in no way be construed or interpreted as a solicitation to sell or offer to sell advisory services to any resident of any state other than the state of Virginia or where otherwise legally permitted. Welcome Home Wealth Advisors, LLC, and Welcome Home Financial Partners are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any government agency.